No. Well, ain't you a sweetie? Trying to find my live. There we go. Okay. A fourth orchid bloomed. She is. They're huge. Look how big they are. Look like aliens. But like alien teeth.
Aliens who have a show in Vegas. And I love that round thing that we found.
Oh, me too.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Love you.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday the 13th. Welcome to spooky season and welcome to this month's October open Q&A session. Thrilled you guys are joining me today. If you're watching this on the replay, just know that every month I'll be sending out emails with opportunities for you to join me and ask me questions live. This is not the only time you can ask me questions about your business. You can send me emails beforehand to make sure that I answer your questions on camera, or you can always send me an email at the support@erinbooth.com address. So let's just dive right in because I've got a quick tip to start for you guys today. And this is something that I heard recently from another coach, and it blew my mind. And I really wanted to reiterate it for you guys as VAs and even for myself. It's a good reminder for every business owner that when you are talking to people online, when you are doing your online presence, when you are talking about your business, it's really important that you have one central message that you are talking about. So, what I typically see a problem is, and like I said, I've fallen into this trap before myself. So, it's a good reminder for all of us. Typically, there are so many different things that we're passionate about, or there are so many different parts of the virtual assistant business that we want to talk about that our content tends to be all over the place. So it could look like a few different things. Your content could be lots of different topics online. You could talk about topics that have no relationship to one another. Major problem. You are not repeating content that is core to your services, or you're not repeating content that is central to your services or your niche. And the problem with that is that you're really degrading the trust that I think your clients are trying to find in you. And I'll give you a couple examples of what this looks like. Let's just say that one week you're making all these videos or you're posting on LinkedIn consistently and you're like ChatGPT is going to change your business. This is the one tool that you need. And then the next week you find some shiny new tool and you're like, you know what? I lied. ChatGPT is out. It's video and it's this tool that's going to change your business. If all the time you're hopping online and you're like, this is going to change your business, to this is going to change your business, it's that kind of hopping around that makes clients lose trust and faith in you because they're going to be like, I actually have no idea what this VA is all about. I don't know what they talk about. I don't know what their services are. Actually, before we talk about the solution, I want to talk about one more real world example that I saw of a VA earlier this week. She had been spending about a month, so 4 weeks, pretty consistently online, talking about a brand new course that she had created, which I thought was great because if you're trying to sell a service or a product, it is pretty important that you talk about that one thing with consistency. The problem is, after about 4 weeks, she wasn't seeing that much traction. So all of a sudden, she jumped topics and switched completely off of the course and started talking about trauma and past traumas. This is a huge deviation from her virtual assistant business. And even though she offers different like trauma coaching, trauma and virtual assistant services are worlds apart. They have nothing to do with one another. And so if she had made any headway into talking to people about her product, her course for virtual assistants, all of a sudden she's lost all of those people, all those eyeballs, and all that trust because she switched gears, completely stopped talking about that, and started focusing on coaching and around past traumas. So it's that kind of hopping around that really does a disservice to your business. So I wanted to talk to you guys in this open office, a quick tip about how it can be really helpful for your business to find one topic around your specific virtual assistant business that can really help you. Hey, Alyssa, sorry, just starting out. That can really help you connect with clients. So it's that kind of repetition that can feel really boring in your business. But here's the thing. We tend to assume that clients see 100% of our content all the time. Chances are, like anything in social media, nobody's online 100% of the time. So if you post 10 consistent posts about your niche or your services or a new service that you're offering as a VA, chances are your ideal clients who you're trying to reach might just see one of those posts, 1 out of the 10. So you need to be consistent in your messaging so that you can be sure that you're capturing kind of a wider net of people and that you're really, really, really focusing on your clear messaging, your clear services, what it is that you do as a VA, your niche, something that you are passionate about your business. But the point being, if you can find one topic around your niche, around your services, around something that you can really make your own and kind of become a known resource in that sense, that is the thing that you want to focus on. And that is the thing that you want to share on social media or on your website again and again and again and again. And again, it's just because if you are jumping topics, like the example I gave you from the woman who was selling courses to the woman who was doing trauma coaching, totally different things. The audiences are not the same. So you might think you're capturing a wide range of interests and audience, but the truth is you're just degrading what it is that you're selling. So I had another slide that I completely forgot about. Why your clear, consistent messaging works. When you are consistent, your potential clients will have a better understanding of what it is that you do, the services you offer, and you'll come to their top of mind more often. So the less you skip around on your social media messaging, the better it's going to be, and the better clients are going to understand what it is that you're offering. And then over time, this central message can actually lead to a greater brand recognition. So I think that ultimately is the goal that we're aiming for, because if you can set yourself up as an expert or be a recognized voice in a certain niche, that way, when clients need, I'll just throw out an example. Let's say you're niching down in digital marketing as a VA. The next time somebody is looking for an assistant and needs an emphasis on digital marketing, whether that's email, blogs, SEO stuff, you will come to mind. And that's because all of your messaging has been about that one topic consistently. So that is my quick tip for you guys this month. I am more than happy to open this up to a Q&A. Alyssa, I think you're the only one here right now. So if you have any questions for me, oh, hey, Sharon, if you guys have any questions for me, I'm thrilled to see you here. Happy to answer stuff. In the meantime, I actually did get a few questions from another student, Dom. So Dom, if you are here and joining, thanks for sending your questions in ahead of time. I actually emailed these questions to you one-on-one because there were so many juicy details to get into, but I am going to share your questions with the group and work through them because I think that they are really helpful. And of course, now I'm trying to find them. Okay. So, hey, Dom. So Dom, I really appreciate your questions that came in. I think you asked some really good ones. So I did answer, my pleasure. I did answer a little bit more, but I actually have some more thoughts for you guys. So you mentioned your client has this shiny object syndrome where they have a lot of different interests. They're slow to respond, easily distracted. I have run across many, many clients who have the same kind of shiny object syndrome. And sometimes, hey, Anais, sometimes it can be really hard to work with clients who are so easily distracted because you're trying to be your best partner for them and they're either dropping the ball, they're not finishing due dates, they're missing things, you're giving them work that they demand quickly and then they drop it. It can be really frustrating. A couple things you can do if you have a client who's really hard to, hey Grace, a couple things you can do if you're having a hard time getting your client to focus or getting your client to meet their own deadlines or getting your client to hit the goals that they're setting for themselves. The first thing I always want to do for clients like this is put deadlines in their calendar. So I just find sometimes if clients are like a little space cadet-y and they can't quite focus in, or they have maybe so many things to do that they can't quite get their own goals met, what you can do is put simple deadlines in their calendar. So if they set a deadline for themselves on a Friday, put a deadline in there for them, clearly mark it, color code it in bright red, add a calendar notification the day prior, be like, your deadline's coming up for this thing that you set for yourself. Another thing that I think is really helpful in addition to deadlines is setting up weekly calls, and you can be pretty insistent about setting up weekly calls with them. I found for the clients who are either slow to respond or give me maybe not as much work as I think they could be giving me or I hope they could be giving me, something that really helped is setting up a call a weekly standing call that you hold them to. Um, so I actually have a client right now who struggled with that greatly a few years ago, and I actually thought she was going to fire me because she barely was sending me any work. And I realized she didn't probably either get the um, didn't understand delegation, because delegation is hard. Like, when people ask me, like, what could I do for you work wise right now? I'm like, I don't know. I have 100 things to do, but I can't think of one thing that I want to delegate to someone. Delegation can be hard. So instead, setting up a weekly call with her was just enough for us to have a conversation. And I could say, what are you working on this week? What's going on in your personal life? Through that conversation, she would think of like 10 things for me to do. And I would just write them down in notes, on a notepad as we're on the phone together. So a weekly call can be really helpful. The calendar deadlines can be really helpful. And then end of week reports. This is just a simple email that you guys can set up for your client, where either every Friday at the end of the day or maybe every Monday at the top of the morning, you can send them a quick reminder email that's just a recap of, like, here's what we worked on this week, here's what's still pending, and here's what we got done. Sometimes those simple reminders can be enough for your client to be like, oh, shoot, I got to work on this thing, or I got to meet this deadline. And those three items together, the calendar, the weekly call, and the end of week reports, can also be really helpful. Okay, I see a lot of questions coming through, and I'm very excited. So I'm going to go through an order. I also see digital nomad, which I'm super excited to talk about because I used to do that for 7 years. Okay, so first, Sharon, I have a client that you love. He's not giving you a lot of work. You have weekly meetings. You feel like you're just a sound. Okay. The first question I'm going to ask you, Sharon, is, does that bother you? I think I know the client you're talking about. Does it bother you that you are a sounding board or an accountability partner? And I ask that because I also have a client who treats me like a sounding board, where we hop on a call together, and it's the same woman I was just talking about, where she just kind of stream of consciousness talks about things she has to do. In some cases, she will even say to me, this is not something I need you to do. I'm going to handle it myself, but it helps me to talk it out. So it could be that your client is perfectly happy to have you as a person that they can run ideas past or jog their memory. And if you're getting paid for it, it's a win-win. However, if you are wanting more work, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And if you could pop your answers into the chat, that'd be great. My first question would be, have you taken the time to maybe identify, I'll say holes, but opportunities where maybe you could be doing more? I'm just going to throw out an example. If you're doing a lot of tech work for him, is there an opportunity for you to say, hey, I've noticed that, I've noticed that your digital organization needs some cleaning up. Could I handle this for you? Or I've noticed that your emails are a little all over the place. Could I handle your inbox management? So it could be an opportunity like that. And I apologize for the face. I'm reading your comments as you're responding. You do want more work. Being a sounding board can be useful in its own way, because there might be an opportunity where he says something, whether it's about his personal life or his work life, where it jogs your memory. So Sharon, I guess another option is that if you do like this particular client, it does tend to work out that clients who are nice, who are well paying, who have good work that you enjoy to give, tend to know other people in the same sphere, similar personalities. So I'm curious if you've also asked him if he would be willing to send you any referrals, or if you've told him, I'm taking on more clients. Do you have anyone in your network or with similar work? If so, send them my way. But it can be tricky. Especially if a client genuinely doesn't have more work to give. It might just be that he's utilizing you exactly how he always intended to, which can be tricky if you are looking for more hours or more pay. So that might be where the pivot comes in, where you're like, okay, I'm taking on more clients. What do you got for me? I'm going to keep thinking about that, though, because if you're already doing the calls and you're already being in the sounding board and you're already suggesting things, it sounds like you're actually doing everything right. So I'm going to keep thinking on that for you, about other ways that you could potentially get more work from this person. But do keep in mind that he might be using you exactly how he intends to be using you. All right, Alyssa, I'm excited for this one, for the digital nomad lifestyle. That's very cool that you're a dual citizen. I had to do it with the American passport, so like every 3 months I had to leave. So yeah, so the nice thing is, so I did that for 7 years. The cool thing about it is, clients. Here's my number one tip. If you have promised your clients that you're available during certain working hours, like if you've already said to them, um, I'm online between 9 and 5 Pacific Standard Time, like if you've already committed to a certain time zone in the US, you might want to consider matching their time zone while you're traveling. Something like that, it has some pros and cons. So only you can decide if this is how you want to do this. But if you keep your hours matched to their US hours, you could live literally anywhere in the world. You could be, if your clients are in California, for example, you could be living in Paris for a while and you would have the entire day to do whatever the heck you wanted. And then around 6, 7 p.m., you would hop online and start working as it is their morning and Pacific Coast hours. The benefit is there that your clients don't really need to know where you are in the world. You don't necessarily need to update them all the time. You don't need to make changes to your schedule all the time. They have something consistent, and that is your hours, and you have something fun, which is a whole day of activity, exploration, travel, and then work in the evening. If that sounds terrible to you, which I totally understand, working until 1 or 2 a.m. is not ideal for everyone, then I think it is more about open communication, letting them know that you might have some amended hours, but that you still you'll be moving towards an asynchronous schedule so that whatever they send to you at whatever time, you'll get to it at your morning, no matter where you are in the world. So it could go either way. It just really depends on how you want to run your business. But the nice thing is you can do virtual assistants from literally anywhere in the world, so long as you have a strong internet connection. There are a couple places that I've worked before where the internet connection was just not good enough, even at their top speed. So that can be a stressful component. Um, Something that I had to do in some areas was not do video calls. I was in Italy for a couple months, and the internet everywhere was horrendous, and I couldn't do any Zoom calls. So what I ended up doing was just telling clients that we would connect by phone, so audio. So it was a simple fix, but just know that you have to be a little flexible or sometimes a little creative. Maybe you have to go to a cafe, maybe you have to get a Wi-Fi extender for your travels, but it is definitely possible. So the first thing I would think about for you is whether you want to match their hours or whether you want to just work whenever you want asynchronously. I'm excited for you, by the way. Oh, let's see. Oh, I like this tip. Alyssa, this is a great tip. I use my meetings to co-work, so I make sure she's giving me work to do and also getting her side work done as we progress. Almost like babysitting. Sometimes weekly calls or check-in calls with clients can absolutely feel like babysitting. And that is a-okay, because I genuinely think that's part of being a virtual assistant, is like you're this accountability partner where you guys can tackle stuff together. So I think that's great. And your babysitting comment really made me laugh. And Sharon, I see your comment about asking him for referrals. That's fantastic. A good rapport is one of the best things you can do for your business. If you're working with a client who you're doing consistently good work for, you guys are actively engaged together, you're doing weekly calls, and they like the work that you're doing, referrals are the best thing you can do to ask that client. So I'm glad you guys have gotten a couple months of work under your belt together. That is the perfect time to shoot an email. I believe I have a script for referrals in one of the courses, but if not, I'll link it to this replay video again. I like to keep my referrals simple. I usually just send an email of like, hey, so-and-so, I'm taking on more work for my business. If, here are my services, here are my hours, here are my rates. If you could forward this to somebody in your network who you think could use my assistance, I'd be forever grateful. And I think referrals are so great too. Sometimes clients refer people right away. So you're like, boom, I got a client right away. And other times clients will refer people repeatedly again and again and again. So I had this client that I once asked for a referral for 6 years ago, and he still sends me referrals, which is phenomenal. So sometimes you get lucky, but don't be afraid. If you ask your client for a referral, and he's like, sure, and then nothing comes of it, don't be afraid. And then the next couple months to just poke them again and be like, still taking on clients. It's totally fine. And I think clients expect it. Um, all right, Grace, great question. How do you handle after hours requests, i.e., okay, so a couple more questions for you because this is really going to depend on your business and how you want to develop your business and your contracts. So, after hours requests, there's a couple things you can do. So, let's just work through a couple of the options. Number one, you could not offer after hours requests at all. You could simply say, after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever time you're done, you could say, after this hour of the day, I am closed, like a business, like a gym, for example. Once the gym closes, nobody's there to pick up the phone. So you could run your business like that and just say, after hours, I'm not available. I will get back to your email the next morning of business as soon as I can, like first thing in the morning. So that could be option one. Option two, you could charge a higher amount. I've seen other VAs do this before with success, where they say, if you have urgent emergency, like let's just say a client is like, I need you to do something in the next 30 minutes and you have to drop all your other projects. That's an urgent task, which might be liable for a higher fee. It's the same thing with after hours requests. So if somebody sends something at 10 p.m., it's urgent, it's maybe travel related, you could charge a higher rate. The only thing I would say about that is if you do decide to do after hours requests, and this is the reason that I don't do it. Okay. I see your next comment, which I'll put up in a second. So the only reason I don't do this is because I've had clients send me things at 11:30 p.m. and they're like, I need a flight tomorrow at 7 a.m. I'm like, I'm asleep by 11:30, so I don't see the email. And then chances are by 7:30, I also haven't booked them a flight. So it can be tricky because if you're in between those nebulous hours where you're sleeping like a normal human, and your client expects you to respond, and then you miss something that's important, it can be kind of an ugly and hard conversation to have. Having said that, if you come up with some system where maybe they text you if it's something urgent, or they call you, or there's some other way that they alert you that there's something in your inbox that you need to do, that could be an option too. But it's really up to you. And I'm curious to hear, so I'll pull up your next comment and then we'll come back to your monthly retainer. So they often send after hour requests because of their schedule. So I'm curious, are they in a different country than you? Like a normal human. Yeah. So Grace, I'm curious, is your client in a different country? And if so, are they sending you urgent, like needs to be done in that moment task? Or is it more that they like to have things done quicker? Or is it that even if you're in the same country, is it that they just don't care and they just want stuff done whenever they send it to you? It can be tricky though, because this is one of those very nuanced conversations where if you promise your clients, VAs aren't normal humans. Sharon, I'm putting this up because that is hilarious. we do a lot. We tend to make a lot of magic happen. Okay, so no, she's got an insane schedule. Okay, so as much as I want to say that this could be a conversation with your client, it's really a conversation with you and how you want to run your business. So if let's say you keep this client for the next 10 years, will it drive you crazy for the next decade of your life if they're sending you tasks at 9 p.m. or if they're sending you frequent tasks where they're like, I need you to do this now? Like, would that drive you crazy? Would you hate it if your work life looked like you had no schedule because you were constantly accommodating this person? And if your answer is yes, then maybe you don't accommodate after hour schedules. And okay, so they don't expect it, but you wouldn't mind extra money. That's great, because it sounds like to me that you're super happy to help them where you can for extra money. So what I would suggest for you is having a phone call conversation with them and then following up with an email so you have everything in writing. But I think it is worth a conversation where you two can come up with a plan, because there does need to be clear parameters around after hours. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? If you're just like, send me an email whenever, and then they're emailing you at midnight, like that sucks because you probably won't see it. So there needs to be some more clarity. So maybe it could even be something as, regular work hours are from 9 to 5. After hours our requests are from 5 to 9 p.m. And if they send you an after hours request, maybe part of that is that you say, please send me a text, or please send me something so that I make sure that I'm not missing any after hours requests. And then you can say, after hours requests, my rates go up to $50 an hour. I'm just making this up on the fly, but it could be something where you have to get very clear about your hours, your after work hour parameters, and what those rates are. And then, of course, part of that is that you need to be tracking those after hours so that you can clearly, when you send them an invoice every month, you can clearly um, communicate, like, these are the 2 tasks you sent me after hours. This is how much it costs. So this is the new total of your bill. Oh, Alyssa, you had a good, sorry, Anais, you had a good comment about an eSIM card that works all around the EU. That's awesome. Actually, I wish that I had done that. Back in the day, I had T-Mobile, and I would either keep my phone on airplane mode, or certain countries I was able to use data and internet without an extra fee. But the EU SIM is a great tip. And Alyssa, I see that you're thinking about Belgium. You're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time there. Let us know if you end up making the move and hopping around while working. And I'm also curious if you're leaning more towards keeping your regular hours or working during your daylight hours wherever you are. Totally up to you. All right, Grace, you had another part of your question. Okay, so I want to address the next part of your question about monthly retainers and rollover hours. And I know I say this repeatedly. I should get it tattooed across my forehead, and the tattoo would be, you decide, because you're the business owner. But I wish I could give you more clear tips, but I'll just weigh out some options for you. I do monthly retainers. I do not roll my hours over. And again, it's because I think of myself like a gym membership. When you get a gym membership, you pay a monthly flat fee. If you go once during that month and you ask to roll your hours over to the next month, the gym will laugh at you and they'll be like, no, we're a business. You pay one flat fee and then you decide how often you want to utilize the gym. So it's the same with me. And I just tell my clients, I'm a flat fee. You utilize me for the hours. I'm here basically on call for you. And if you don't utilize all your hours, they don't roll over. So I kind of put the responsibility of them tracking. The reason I do that is because there are some months where clients might use me for 100% of my hours versus other months where they might use me for like 2 out of the hours that they've contracted me for. And it's really hard for me to be tracking those, especially when you have multiple clients. So if you're tracking hours for multiple clients and you're like, this person rolls over here and this person has 5 extra hours over here, it can be complicated. It can get messy. It can be a real brain drain on you for admin type stuff. But again, that's just how I do it. If you feel more comfortable or it feels more authentic to your business to want to roll hours over as kind of a nice, like, you don't use your hours, you get an extra 1 to 2 the next month. If that is something that feels more authentic to you and your business, there are ways to make it work. It's a little more tracking, it's a little more admin on your end, but it's absolutely possible. So I would just say, Grace, if you feel like that is the way to run your business, absolutely do it. But if that kind of extra admin doesn't feel right to you, you don't have to offer rollover hours. It really is on your client's responsibility to be able to utilize you as much as they need to during your contracted allotment. This is, yeah, I see a lot more comments popping up. Did I need a work visa as a digital nomad? No. So technically, just as an American, I just kept our traditional tourist visa. For most countries in the EU, I was there for 3 months. Of course, then I would have to leave the Schengen zone for another 3 months. So it was getting a little trickier as more countries joined the Schengen zone. So no, I had no special digital nomad visa. I do know that certain countries are doing it. Estonia, I think Ireland just came out with something. If you want to be a digital nomad, you don't need, it might be different because you have a dual citizenship. So for me, since I was technically visiting and was there under 3 months, I owed no taxes to that country. I paid only taxes to the United States as a US citizen. However, I honestly don't know, and I'm happy to look into this for you and ask others questions as well. I don't know how it works for an EU citizen if you are living in another country for a certain amount of time. Essentially, if you're living in Belgium for, let's say, over 3 months, that might change your taxes. So I will look into that for you. I genuinely don't know, but I'm happy to do some research. Uh, let's see. Most of my work is async. Awesome. I love it. I love async. Most of my work is async now too, just by the nature of the work, and it's great. And async work works really well for moving and traveling as well. The last tip I'll say that if you are moving to a fully async is just making sure you and your clients are talking about deadlines. That can be as simple as somebody sends you a task. If you know you have a travel day coming up, you can simply respond with like, great, received, when do you need this by? And that way you can kind of figure out your own travel schedule or your own holiday schedule, and you can pop around different countries and be fabulous and still get your work done. I'm super excited for you. Navigating working as a subcontractor. Oh, that's exciting. Congrats. Okay, so you're moving to a subcontractor to direct contract. Congratulations. Very exciting. Glad the input was helpful. Of course, if you have any other questions about what you're going to offer to this particular client. But I think, like anything, just over communication is best. A lot of times, a phone call is the easiest way to kind of wrap up some of these questions, or at least get a sense for like what your client is looking for, what they're comfortable with. I would say just remember, if your client ever asks you for something that you're not comfortable with, or you think to yourself, this is not how I want my business to look in the next 5 years, you can always say no and then try to find ways to appease them. You guys have a ton of great questions, and I'm all very excited for everything that you guys are doing and building. Does anybody else have any more questions? Oh, and for anyone who joined late, um, I did a little intro thing this month about having a central message and like core messaging on social media and how that can attract the right people. So when I repost this to the Teachable site, make sure that you're just watching that first 10 minutes, because hopefully there's some helpful stuff in there. But yeah, I'm really excited for you guys. I want to just say too that we're living in a weird time right now. I've heard from we're living in a weird time because it's kind of this weird moment where clients are where the whole world, it feels like, is kind of trying to save income. In fact, a couple of my clients, there's one guy in particular who I work with who he does not own his own business, but he hired me nonetheless, and he actually just got fired. It's an unfortunate time for a lot of people. So I think it's really great what you guys are all doing with the clients that you have during kind of a weird time in the world. And the fact that you guys are all communicative, you guys are all doing amazing work, you guys are working with people that you love, like, pat yourself on the back, because it's just a great place to be. It's an exciting place to be. And you guys are all doing awesome. So yeah, I'll just wait a few more minutes, see if anybody else has any questions coming in. But if not, other than that. So actually, before I let you go, I have a couple topics that I like to think through for future months. Oh, I did think of something. Oh, wait, has anyone found less client? Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm curious to know if anyone has noticed a drop off. I can tell you that even from my end, talking to clients, I have noticed a drop off in the people who reach out to me who are looking for VAs. I've actually talked to a couple people who were looking for VAs who had to pull back because of funds for themselves. So it is a tricky time. And actually, something to be mindful of, especially if this is anybody's first year doing virtual assistants, is that November and December months can feel quiet. it can go two ways. It can either be insane and all your clients will be sending you millions of things to do before the holiday season, or it can be really, really quiet. And that's because of the holiday. So people are doing Thanksgiving if they're in the US. If they're in Canada, they just have Thanksgiving. If they are, um, if they celebrate Christmas, that's coming up in December. Oftentimes people will go on holidays if they have kids with kids' school breaks. So I tend to find that this month can be a quieter month. And I say that just so I can tell you, keep the faith. It is not that people are going to drop you. It is not that you're going to get fired. It can feel super scary. The first few years of my virtual assistant business, I always had drop offs in terms of tasks in November and December. And I swear I had a panic attack every month where I'd be like, this is it. They're all going to fire me. It just turns out everybody was busy. Everybody was on vacation mode. Everybody's brain was already checked out of the office. And then come January, you are just like slammed again. So I don't want anyone to worry. This is especially helpful if you have contracts that are monthly flat fees. Um, but yeah, it can feel scary. Just know that it's normal. A November, December drop off in interest is normal. Come January, when everybody is refocused on their business, is refocused on growth, is refocused on work, it will be like off to the races again. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Yes, everybody's got this. I want to just disagree that you're doing a bad job advertising, but it does beg the question, how often are you posting online? Do you have a central messaging about your business? Are you interacting with other people? Sorry guys, one of my clients is blowing up my own phone. Are you interacting with people's comments online? So if November and December is a particularly quiet month for you work wise, these 2 months, next 2 upcoming months, will be a perfect opportunity for you guys um, to think through your marketing, or to think through different things you can do, or to think through different oh my gosh, different oh yeah, it could be. It could be. Consistency is definitely helpful. Actually, I have a new tip for you guys. LinkedIn just recently rolled out a new feature that I just looked into not even a week ago, and it's called newsletters. So the cool thing when when a platform rolls out a new feature is that the algorithm pushes it crazy hard because that's the thing that they want to take off. So there's a thing now on LinkedIn called the newsletter. Um, I need to make a video about this, but when you guys log into LinkedIn, on the homepage, I'm trying to picture this mentally, it'll say write an article. If you click on that write an article button, you have the option to, instead of writing a standalone article, there is an option under manage, I believe, where it allows you to create a newsletter. And the newsletter is almost like a blog post. So something that you could look into is writing a very simple weekly newsletter about a new tool that you really like, or a new productivity hack that you think is helpful. Or, as I just did this whole spiel at the beginning of the video about central messaging, if you have a niche, or if you have services or a service that's like your bread and butter or you're really passionate about, write a newsletter every week about something related to your business. And maybe that could be the thing that you focus on the next 2 months. You could pre-write 12 newsletters and have the next 3 months done and scheduled and going out regularly on LinkedIn. But now is the time to get into the newsletter, because if LinkedIn is pushing this out so heavily, more people are going to see it. So just to give you an example, I tried the newsletter feature a couple days ago. All I did was embed a YouTube video of mine with a quick blurb about what I talked about in the video. Um, and I released it, and over 1,000 people signed up for the newsletter, which is crazy because my goal was to get 100 signups. So that's and it's not that I'm like insanely popular on LinkedIn. That's not it at all. I think it's just that the platform is really, really, really pushing out this newsletter bit so that it gets more popular. Yeah. If you build it, they will come. So maybe the newsletter is the thing that you look at. But if you guys are slowing down the next few months, this is prime opportunity to think through, like, what can you had a good week babysitting my client. Sharon, you could absolutely, your whole newsletter could be about babysitting clients and accountability partnerships. No, that is hilarious. Um, but your next few months, if it is slow, you could be focusing on either, Canva designs, things you want to put out on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and you can go ahead and pre-schedule all of that stuff. Or you can spend the next 2 months really hyping up, January, new business, new opportunities, new virtual assistant. What can you guys create together? How to babysit 101. You guys are hilarious. That's so funny. I would read that newsletter if you did How to Babysit Clients 101. Oh, good times. But there was one more thing I was looking at. Dom, if you're still here, you had a great question that you emailed to me earlier, and you had asked me, how do I handle project management tools with my clients? So we talked a little bit back and forth. I responded to Dom in private, and I said that I could use, if clients are using tools like Asana, I'll use Asana. If clients are using tools like Basecamp, I'll use that. If it's Notion, I'll just join them in whatever tool that they are using because they're comfortable with it. However, if you have a client who does not, hey Dom, if you have a client who does not use a project management tool at all, you don't even need to invite them to your own tool. You could use a project management tool on your own to make sure that you are tracking your own tasks without necessarily inviting them. Because I know you mentioned you've invited her to your Asana and she doesn't really look at it. That's pretty par for the course. Only because clients, I think, are so busy that normally when you're like, check out this new tool, they're like, I don't care. I don't want to know what you're using, just get stuff done. So I don't want you to feel discouraged if you feel like you're constantly spinning your wheels. She just might be one of those people who is not into the project management tool or not into using a new tool or not wanting to add any work to her workload. So in that case, again, the weekly check-in calls, the end of week reports, and deadlines on the calendar are all going to really help your client without you feeling like she's not meeting you in your tools or what's working for you. She sounds a little difficult, so I do empathize with you there if I could talk. Alyssa, I'm really glad that you're feeling motivated. Things ebb and flow like any business, and it can be so frustrating and hard when you feel like you're working so much on the back end on your marketing or on your materials. You're trying to figure out how to reach people and you're not getting a lot of traction. Consistency is key. Pre-creating and pre-scheduling things to go out on a consistent basis across social media platforms are key, and your messaging is going to be key too. And even if you take 10 minutes a day to get on LinkedIn and go through and see if people are mentioning the term virtual assistant, are they clients? Are people mentioning being frustrated about certain work elements? Can you, over a cup of coffee, respond to them with some tips? It can always be helpful to give random internet strangers tips because you want to be known as that helpful resource. But it can be a lot, but don't give up. And I definitely don't want you guys to feel discouraged if the next few months are slow. This is just your opportunity to get your ducks in a row before things get crazy again in January. So those are my end of year tips, which I'm sure I'll talk about again and again, especially in December, as I myself will be slow. And I know that. Cool. All right. I think, does anybody have any more questions? This has been a really fun discussion. I actually had a lot of fun this month. Yeah. And of course, don't forget, any questions you guys have in the meantime, just send me an email and I will respond to you guys. And last but not least, if you guys hadn't noticed, I had to manually enroll everybody in some smaller standalone courses that I have, but essentially I'm migrating away from an old platform that I use and I'm putting all this content that I had on the Teachable platform, and I wanted you guys to be able to have access to all that content. So I've got like older courses up there. There's some overlap with the 12-week program, but I've got standalone courses there if you guys want to revisit about how to find your first clients, if you guys want to revisit best tools or the most frequently requested services. All those courses are there. You have access to every single one of them. So if you guys need a little extra, feel free to hop around or only take the lectures that look interesting to you. It's all free. It's all done. You guys are already enrolled. So that is just my thank you to you guys for being here. So super excited for all you guys. Happy October. I can't believe it's October. I can't believe it's almost Halloween. This is my favorite season. I will be watching only horror movies for the rest of the 2 weeks of the month. And then I will be decorating for Christmas on November 1st. Cool. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This was a really great discussion. And I really appreciate you guys. This was great. Thank you so much. And I will see you all in November. Okay. Bye, everybody. Christmas starts November 1st. Yes, it does.